For what?
You are outstanding human being.
Baruch Hashem. I think, as we're going to see over here in the Tanya, every one of us is an outstanding human being, because every human being, by definition, is outstanding, created by Hashem Himself. So let's recap just a few lines from last week. It is so important to focus on this. In the beginning of chapter 32, the Alter Rebbe begins with the following teaching. Acting on the advice mentioned above, to view one's body with scorn and contempt, and to find joy in the joy of the soul alone, is a direct and easy path towards fulfilling the mitzvah of you should love your fellow as yourself. With regard to every Jew, with both great and small in spiritual stature. So let me ask you a question. Why should we view our body with scorn? Now, scorn doesn't mean to detest. It doesn't mean to hate. But it means not giving primal value. Why shouldn't we give our bodies primal value? The Torah emphasizes the absolute importance of maintaining our health, our physical disposition. Nishmartem lenafshesechem mahod, that we have to safeguard our health, and sometimes overriding Torah in itself. Shabbat, God forbid, if someone's health is in danger. On Yom Kippur, if someone's health is in danger, then some would say they have the obligation to violate the Torah in order to maintain their health. But from a deeper perspective, this is not a violation of the Torah. This is the upkeep of the Torah. Why should we view our bodies with scorn? Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz was once sitting in a Farbrengen in Eretz Yisrael and was asked, and this is, I believe we brought it in one of our previous classes, was asked by a not Chabad Jew, who am I really? Am I my body or am I my soul? And Rabbi Steinsaltz pointed to a building right outside where the window was facing. It says, this is how we should view ourselves, like this building. This building has many stories. It has the penthouse, and the opposite extreme, it has the basement. The penthouse has the view of the city, a view from above, while the basement is submerged underground and is prone to the heat, dampness, and mold, and then of course there's jukim, there's cockroaches, all that stuff. The entirety of the building contains both extremes. So too we, each and every one of us, contain both extremes. The name Adam, mankind, that Hashem gave Adam Rishon, our sages explained it actually has a dual meaning to it. On one hand, Adam, from the word Adama, means from the ground. Means that our bodies, our physical dispositions, our physical selves, were made from the earth. In other words, we contain within ourselves the lowliest of the low. Earth is something that we walk on, but it's the lowliest of the low. On the other hand, As Chassidus explains, Adam comes from Admele Elyon. I will liken to the supernals. As the Midrash explains, that mankind encompasses both extremes. On the other hand, we are forged from the lowliest of the low. On the other hand, our souls emanate from the essence of Hashem. And we have the capabilities of fusing both. So why should we view our physical disposition, our physical bodies with scorn? For what reason? Very interesting, in the beginning of chapter 1 of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe focuses, the Alter Rebbe explains the different types of souls, where there's a tzaddik, and then there's the rasha, and there's the Beinoni, the struggler. The Alter Rebbe goes on to explain the temperament of the animal soul. It explains that the animal soul is derived from what's called klipat noga. A klipa means a husk, a shell. Just like the shell of the fruit covers a fruit and it tastes usually bitter, unlike the fruit in itself, which is full of zest and life and sweetness. The shell of the fruit, the peel of the fruit, is usually bitter, and especially with tough shells. So too, there is an ungodly force, as we discussed in the first class, which is called the klipa. It's the force that conceals the godliness from being able to free flow in and out of ourselves. And there are 3 unholy type of klipot, which is the 3 truly unholy forces from which all non-kosher and forbidden things emanate from. And that's why the word asur, anyone knows the word asur in Hebrew?
Not allowed.
Forbidden. It's forbidden. Eating pig is forbidden. Violating Shabbat is forbidden, etc. Why? Because there's another connotation of the word asur. Asur means it's tied up. It's held down. Asur means it cannot, by definition, no matter how much a person works, elevate it up. It cannot be elevated. So a person who says, I'm going to eat pig and I'm going to utilize the energy to learn Torah and mitzvot, they're fooling themselves. Because not only they're not going to be able to elevate the pig, but it's actually going to drown them. It's going to hold them down. It's like trying to dive deep into the water and trying to pick up a treasure which is bound to the ground in itself. It's going to take so much energy, but it's for futile reasons, because there's no way to elevate it. After a while, it's going to drown the person. Asur means it cannot be lifted upwards. Then there is a 4th klipa. It's called klipat noga, the translucent klipa. And the Alter Rebbe explains that this klipa is a shell of sorts, but it's neutral. And depending on the perspective and depending on the usage of it is the directional movement of it. The way we perceive it, the way we interact with it, that's the flow of the energy. For example, food, kosher food. Kosher food is neither good or bad. Money is neither good or bad. It depends on how one perceives the money, how one perceives the food, and how one utilizes it is the directional movement of the energy. if one perceives it as a vehicle to be able to elevate and be elevated with, then one elevates the kosher food. One elevates the money. For example, what does the word kosher mean? What does the word kosher mean?
Clean.
No, it's not clean.
No,
Nope.
Pure.
Nope. Pure is tahor. There's a kosher sukkah, kosher tefillin, kosher tzitzit, kosher mezuzah, kosher food.
Legal.
Proper?
Means fit.
Fit?
Kosher means fit. It's fit. And in each instance, the question is fit for what? In kosher, it means it's fit to be ingested and help the one who consumes it elevate upwards and is able to be elevated. Not kosher means that if a person consumes it, it doesn't mean it's not clean or not dirty. There could be kosher food that's clean and kosher food that's not clean. There could be non-kosher food that's clean and non-kosher food that is clean. But it's independent of its spiritual stature, which is, can it be elevated upwards, or will it ultimately act as an anvil to the person and drown them? The body emanates from klipat noga, from the translucent klipa, which means it's not evil. Unlike lahavdil, what the Christians and the Catholics and so on and so forth proclaim that the body's evil and it's sinful. It's not. It's not. Physicality is not evil. It's not sinful. It depends of how it's being used. What is the perspective? What is the perception? And what is the manner in which it's being interacted with? So why should we view our bodies with scorn if it's not evil? So again, in chapter 1 of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe in chapter 1, after discussing the various spiritual character types, archetypes, tzaddik, beinoni, rasha, and the various degrees within those character archetypes, the Alter Rebbe continues to explain the nature of the animal soul. That the animal soul in itself stems from klipat noga, from the translucent klipa. Therefore, it's prone for animalistic behavior and tendencies. But incidentally, all the naturally good character traits, like compassion, like empathy and sympathy, and so on and so forth, also emanate from the animal soul. Why? How could the animal soul, if it's like an animal, how could it be both animalistic and capable of being sympathetic, empathetic, compassionate, kind, and so on and so forth? The reason is because the animal soul is empathetic and sympathetic, compassionate, kind, like a dog is kind to its master. The dog recognizes it has a master, someone who feeds it, someone who takes care of it. And it's as in Hebrew, the word for dog is kelev. Kelev is an abbreviation of the kulo lev, it's all heart. That the dog in itself is all emotions. The animal soul, as the Alter Rebbe explains in chapter 1, is primarily emotional. It's all emotions, with no real rhyme and reason. I say no real rhyme and reason because it has rhyme and reason, but the rhyme and reason serves the emotions. In other words, like we discussed in last week's class, a child and an animal are one and the same. And that children are all emotions. They have no real reason. The mind kicks in at 13 for a boy or 12 for a girl. Until then, they're all emotions. And that's why you see children acting erratically. One second they're happy, the next second they're completely angry and this, and there's no common thread. You look like you're insane. And if an adult behaves, this is insanity. One second you're happy, the next second you're screaming. What's the matter? Why does that not seem appropriate for an adult, but a child, you get it? Because a child doesn't have seichel, doesn't have intellect governing their emotions. So their emotions are each one just running amok. Chesed is running amok, and so is Gvura running amok. And there's no synthesis between them. And what can synthesize between Chesed and Gvura? The intellect. You have to be open to this, but at the same time create a healthy board around this. It's not either or. But only the parents, the right brain and the left brain, the chokhmah and the bina, can filter out the emotions and give them directions. If the mind is not governing their emotions, it's akin to a child who's running in the street without mommy and daddy. They see a candy in the street, I want it. Somebody bothers them, they get angry. You know the book Lord of the Flies? You ever read it?
No.
Lord of the Flies is what Animal Farm is for socialism and communism. Lord of the Flies is for anarchy. It's about a bunch of children from a boarding school who went on a trip, and then their boat capsized, and they end up on an island without anyone watching them. And they were a very strict school, but by the end of the book, they were like tribes people. They were running around. They killed one of their own, and because emotions, by definitions, have no real charge. You think about this. Emotions are tools. There's a setting where the tool requires a hammer. There's a setting that requires a screwdriver. There's a setting that requires a jackhammer. But if you're going to put up a picture, and in order to drive the nail into the wall, you use a jackhammer, while it could definitely do the job, it's going to destroy the wall. Emotions are a tool in our toolbox. And the mind is the one that governs which emotion should be used right now, what's appropriate for the setting. Otherwise, these emotions just run rampant. Incidentally, as adults, when do we experience the most rawest emotions? Raw emotions.
R-A-W.
When we're sleeping. Because when we're sleeping, our conscious mind becomes dormant, goes to sleep, and the conscious mind filters the emotions. So when the conscious mind is dormant and nothing's filtering the emotions, one experiences the rawest emotions, childlike emotions. You laugh and you cry and you feel you're soaring and you fear the rawest. As adults, it's impossible to experience raw emotions, and that's healthy. Because raw emotions, like electricity, it's too much. You ever been next to someone who's really experienced really more? It's like very intense. Especially if they're coming from the animal soul. The animal soul doesn't understand purpose-driven emotions. All it feels is emotions. So when things are good for it, it wags its tail. I'm very happy. And when something upsets it, it puts out its claws.
So love and hate is animal emotions. It's not normal.
Love and hate. I'm talking right now about the animal soul's emotions.
Emotions.
The
Right,
animal
okay.
soul's emotions.
Animal. Okay.
Animal souls. Because
Okay.
the godly soul also possesses emotions. The difference is that in the animal soul, its primary existence is emotional. It is emotional and gravitates always downwards. And yes, it possesses intellect, but the intellect that the animal soul possesses is harbored within the emotions. In other words, I want candy. Now let me think about how to get this candy. I want to avoid a potentially uncomfortable situation. I need to think about a solution, a resolution, so I don't have to deal with it. But all the intellect is there to serve the emotions in order, and the emotions are there for one reason, to keep it comfortable. To keep it feel in control. So it will utilize intellect in order to be able to make itself feel good. And when it can't feel good, that's when you see it being reactive with chaotic emotions. The godly soul, on the other hand, also possesses emotions, but the godly soul's primary existence is, or is mainly, we could say, intellect, rising upwards. And the emotions are harbored within the intellect. So if right now I'm required to love, that's what's required out of me. If right now I'm required to be firm, I'm required to be firm right now. It's not because I feel attacked, or I feel happy, or I feel despondent, or I feel elated. That's the tool that's required for this particular function. The Rabbi Rashab, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, brings in a discourse, Kuntur Semayan. It's actually printed in English. It's well worth to learn this. It says, Avraham Avinu is brought down that Avraham Avinu was the embodiment of kindness, of chesed, to the extent that the attribute of chesed came in front of Hashem while in Avraham's lifetime, and complained to Hashem. And the complaint was, Hashem, with Avraham on earth, I'm out of a job, I have nothing to do. He is doing all my bidding for me. Now comes a question. Avraham was the embodiment of chesed, divine kindness. Was Avraham a nice guy? Was he being nice?
I believe so.
No, absolutely not.
No?
Absolutely not. Avraham wasn't being a nice guy. Avraham's aim was to serve Hashem with everything. And when was needed, he utilized the strength, the midah, the attribute of kindness which Hashem endowed him with. Invite guests and send him for a brain with them and teach him monotheism and so on and so forth. But then again, the Yetzer Hara came and complained in front of Hashem. Hashem, look, Avraham is just being a nice guy. It's easy for him. Look, you gave him a son, Yitzchak, and he made a big lavish feast, and did he even offer you one korban, one offering? And Hashem says to the Yetzer Hara, if I would ask Avraham for his son right now, he would give it up. He would give him up. Mind you, for Avraham to give his son up was the ultimate Mesirat Nefesh, the ultimate self-sacrifice. This wasn't just an emotional bond between an essentially emotional bond between a father and a son. But Yitzchak was the continuation from Avram's entire life of bringing God into this world. So in sacrificing Yitzchak, it wasn't just that Avram would lose a son. It was that the entire mission would be compromised. And Avram wasn't doing the mission for himself, he was doing it netto for God. And yet Avram didn't hesitate for a second. Not only didn't hesitate for a second, Vayashkem Avram Baboker. Avram woke up bright and early when Hashem didn't give him a due date. When does he have to bring Yitzchak up as an offering? He just told him, bring him up. He could have taken a month, 2 months, 3 months for bring with him, sit with him, take him to the park a little bit, have parting conversations with him. But Avram woke up first thing in the morning, early, bright in the morning, and saddled his own donkey to do this. This was self-sacrifice. Because Avram wasn't being a nice guy. Avram was serving Hashem. And to serve Hashem, you have to serve Him with everything that you have. Sometimes the service requires chesed, being open, and sometimes it requires justice, being firm. But it's not because you're being a nice person or you're being a hard person. That's what's required. And the emotions are tools that you're given in order to express your mission. The animal soul's emotional perspective is, well, it's all about me and my ego, my control. So every emotion is driving my ultimate function, which is self-preservation, control, and comfort. That's it. That's all the emotions are. And if you look at the world, if you look at the way the world does emotions, movies and music and everything, all the emotions are self-preservation. While the godly soul's entire function with the emotion is, God gave me the capacity to love, it's for Him. God gave me the capacity for justice, that's for Him as well. God gave me the capacity for compassion and empathy and sympathy and so on and so forth, that's for Him. There's a situation where I need to go all out and persevere. There's a situation I need to take a step back and let things happen the way they need to. There are those I need to connect to and those I don't need to connect to. And when it doesn't make sense, so what? It's all about obedience in the first place. So the Alter Rebbe in chapter 1 discusses the temperament of the animal soul. And in chapter 2, the Alter Rebbe continues and opens up with chapter 2. V'hanefesh hashanit b'Yisrael hi chelek Eloka mimal mamash. And the secondary soul of the Jewish people is an actual part from the God from above. Now, the Rebbe in his commentary, our Rebbe in his commentary to the Tanya, asks a very powerful question. The Alter Rebbe spent hours and hours on each letter in the Tanya. Hours and hours. Just thinking, this letter, should I and etc. or just etc.? Every letter, every word in Tanya is precise and direct. And here in chapter 1, the foundation, the potential, the first of anything is the potential for everything that emanates from it. It's the foundation of it. Chapter 1, the Alter Rebbe focuses on the animal soul. And only in chapter 2 does the Alter Rebbe start discussing the godly soul, elaborating upon the godly soul. And the way the Alter Rebbe introduces the godly soul, and the secondary soul of the Jewish people is an actual part of the God from above. So our Rebbe in his commentary to Tanya asks a question. Shouldn't l'cha'ura, seemingly the Alter Rebbe begin the Tanya with first and foremost focusing on the godly soul, and then the secondary soul is the animal soul? Why does the Alter Rebbe give precedence to the animal soul, and then go to the godly soul? And in introducing the godly soul, he deems it the secondary soul. You would think that that's a primary soul. The Rebbe explains that's because the ultimate purpose for why we're here in this world is the animal soul. We're here to refine, elevate, and transform the animal soul, the physical, the corporal, and to be a dwelling place for Him. That's the main purpose.
So when Mashiach comes, everyone will have only godly souls?
The animal soul is there as a vehicle. Physicality is there for a vehicle. And that's how we have to view it. The food is here as a vehicle to elevate, on the most corporal level, in order to sustain your physical body. Think about this. Those people who eat for the sake of eating. The Rebbe Rashab once was asked, and we discussed this a while ago, regarding our perception of the physical and so on and so forth. So he invited one of his helpers at home, a Russian guy. Russian means he wasn't Jewish. Let's just say his name was Ivan. Says, Ivan, tell me, why do we eat? He says, what do I eat? I'm hungry. He says, yeah, but why do we eat? He says, I eat because I need energy. He says, and for why do you need the energy? Because I need to go to work. He says, and why do you go to work? So I can make money. So why do you make money? So I can buy food. You understand? It's self-serving. There's no other objective other than the momentary pleasure, the momentary experience. Nothing else outside of that. But that in itself becomes a trapping. While it tastes good now, after that, just like, I can't believe I ate all this. Yeah, so it was good for that moment. But as soon as that moment has passed, what's next? Where did that moment bring you to? The animal soul that doesn't contain seichel, doesn't contain intellect, other than to serve its emotions, doesn't think beyond that experience. It's going to taste good now. It's going to feel good now, and so, and then that's it. There's no other thread other than now. While the godly soul sees the entirety of the picture. And it doesn't eliminate the need for physicality, but rather the physicality is there to serve the mission as a tool, not as an end unto itself. And that's why the Alter Rebbe says that those who scorn their body, we scorn the body not because we hate the body. The body is a vehicle. The physicality is a vehicle in which to serve Hashem.
The animal soul and godly soul, and Maslow's hierarchy looks like he read Tanya and the Jewish sources. And
all psychology is based on the animal soul.
On animal soul.
Freud, it's known, there's a Hasidic aphorism, the Freud stopped digging halfway.
Oh.
Freud got the animal soul perfect. perfect. There's a stream of psychology which focuses on the lower frequency of the animal soul, the corporal, the gross callous corporal. Then there's a stream of psychology which focuses on the higher frequency of the animal soul, which is like Freud, like Frankl, and so on and so forth, which there has to be purpose and so on and so forth. But Freud met with the Rebbe Rashab, with the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe. They met and they corresponded with each other. When you learn Hasidus, you see that Hasidus speaks about everything in psychology way before there was a subconscious and so on and so forth.
That's what I was asking, yeah.
But Freud stopped digging halfway. Had he dug a little deeper, he would have discovered the godly soul. Now,
Why did he stop? Do you know?
because
Будь здоров. На правду.
because he stopped digging because it's convenient. Because when you look for when you find what you look for, you stop looking.
How often it is in like research studies? No. Because the second half would be more complicated, right? More challenging.
Complicated, to put it mildly.
Right.
I heard several times, even from psychologists, the traditional psychology doesn't work on Jews.
On
Jews. Because it only addresses only half of us, and not even our real selves. And if you discount the godly, you're going to constantly be dealing with symptoms. Okay, so you're going to be able to stymie or suppress or this symptom, but another one will come up. You haven't yet discovered the truth.
So we need a full psychologist.
And that's why you need not just a frum, you need someone who knows the Torah Chassidus, to look at the Jew organically, from the inside out, not from the outside in. And going back to the animal soul, as we said before, the Alter Rebbe says that the animal soul is capable of mercy and kindness and compassion and empathy. But that's all self-serving. All of it makes it feel good about life. All of it makes it feel good about itself. I'm being empathetic. I'm being compassionate. I'm being kind. I'm being strong and just. It makes me feel good. We spoke about this in many classes. What's the difference between holy, kadosh, kedusha, and goodness? Well, most people say, I don't need Torah. I could be good without Torah. That's true. You can be good without Torah. But goodness is self-serving. Goodness is for your sake only. So be good for goodness sake. That's a Christian thing. We're good not because we want to be good or we need to be good. Because the dangers are, what happens if you don't need to be good? What if being good is too difficult right now? So that's it? You don't have to be anymore? That's it? Because it's not serving you? The word kadosh, kedusha, holy, means separated, removed. Holiness doesn't emanate from our personal needs. It's based on God. Torah gives us God's will and wisdom, His perspective. Holiness is what God needs from us. We might sometimes not need this. Sometimes we could see I could do without it. But while that might be good, it's not holy. They're very famous. I'm not sure if I heard it. I heard it several times. I'm not sure if it's a parable or it's an actual story, but it fits. There was a philanthropist in a certain town back in the old country that the entire village really depended on his tzedakah. And he was very given, very open, and so on and so forth. But one day he made an about face, and he just abruptly told that day the first person who came to his house, "What do I look like, a bank to you? You keep on coming to my door. Don't you get jobs? What's the matter with you?" And one by one, this philanthropist turned to be mean and cruel. And this went on for a while until people got the drift. He's no longer interested in helping anyone. But then, this continued for a year, and one day he comes to the marketplace and he makes a declaration, "Anyone who needs help, financial help, come, I'm open." And indeed, he started letting everybody in and giving this person tzedakah. So someone asked him, what's the matter? You seem like a little bit chaotic here. When you give, you scream at people. So he said, it's very simply, for a long time I started questioning the validity of my tzedakah. Who was I really doing it for? After all, each time somebody came to me, I felt good. I felt, look, I'm helping, I'm this. And I started asking myself, who was I doing it for? Was I doing it for me, or was I doing it for God? And when I couldn't tell anymore, I decided to challenge myself. So for a solid year, I worked on my psyche to truly explain to myself why I don't want to give tzedakah, why I don't want to be charitable, why it's stupid to do it. To the point I drove the point so much into my psyche that I truly detested doing it. The moment I came to that point, that's when I came out to the market. Because now I could say it's for God. This is seemingly what the Rebbe meant when he told that philanthropists, you give until it hurts. That you give until the point where it starts going to your bottom line. Because now you know you're developing, you're working something out. Until then, you're doing it for you. So it's comfortable for you, it's easy for you. And you're going to be nice and happy-go-lucky until it no longer soothes you and it's no longer doing it for you. In Lahavdil, that's how the Alter Rebbe brings what the Torah says, that the non-Jews can be very nice and very giving and very compassionate and very easygoing, but they're doing it for themselves. Because we as a people, already seen throughout our history how they could be smiling at us and come and I want you to help and I want to help you and I stand by you, until it's no longer serving. So when the Alter Rebbe says to scorn the body, it doesn't mean that a person should hate their body, God forbid. It means understand that that's not your true self. Your true self is your neshama. Your true self is your soul. You're not a body with a soul. You're a soul with a body. Your perspective is inwards to the outwards, from the up to the down. Not from the down to the up, and not from the outside in. You must view yourself, and this is the entirety of the Tanya, of Chassidus, who's the real you. And that's why Dean Steinzold answered this person. You're like that building. You have the penthouse that oversees the entire city, and you also have the basement with the dampness and the cockroaches. And you have to choose who is the real you, who is the real you. And as he continued, as it were, we are a piece of God, a piece of infinity which is sent into this physical world. We are actually residents of the penthouse who are sent to the basement, but not into exile, as ambassadors. And an ambassador is sent from one domain, one country, into another in order to represent its interests. So even when we're down in this physical world, we're not here to reside here. We're here to draw our mission, the godliness, into this place. And so no matter how the physical world looks, we cannot be perturbed by it. We cannot be disturbed by it. What should gain our interest and spark our concern is, as the Rebbe brings from the previous Rebbe in Hayom Yom, that every day a Jew before going to sleep have to ask himself, what did I do today in order to alleviate the birth pangs of Mashiach and to help other Jews? And how did I infuse this world with godliness today? How do I illuminate the darkness today? That's the only thing that should concern us. But everything else, that's the animal soul. It would be well worth, before going to sleep, to make an inventory of the day. A quick review, not Chaz v'Shalom beating yourself up, but a quick review. How was my day? Did I live up my life today? Did I express my abilities today that God gave me in order to illuminate my settings? What are my settings? My family, my surroundings, my community, myself. And if I didn't do my best, and there was impediment, how do I make sure that tomorrow, morgen wird sein gor anders? You know what that means?
Morning what?
Morgen wird sein gor anders.
In Yiddish?
Tomorrow will be completely different.
Tomorrow.
This is how we go to sleep, with that mindset. Tomorrow is going to be completely different.
Was what you were just explaining in the last, say, few paragraphs, was it the advice of the Rebbe or one of the previous Rebbes? Like
This is what
the inventory?
this is Bechlal in Yiddishkeit. And this is part of the service of every single Jew.
From, like, say, 100 years ago, 200?
Every night.
What you just described is what modern career coaches teach, right? Every time you go to sleep, you do this and this. So it looks like they borrowed it from
Of course they
rabbis
did.
too.
Of course they did.
Seems like everything is...
But not only that, the Frierdiker Rebbe explains that the Modeh Ani in the morning is directly connected to this inventory of the night. As we know that the longest thought we have throughout the day is, what's the longest thought we have throughout the day?
No, it's not.
The longest thought you have throughout the day.
Work. Me.
No. My thought is
What's the longest stream of thought that we have throughout one day?
just so good.
I'm talking about time-wise, quantity-wise. What's the longest thought we have throughout the day?
Don't know.
The longest thought we have throughout the day is the last thought we have before we go to sleep. Because it has not only it's the last thought we have, but specifically when we go into alpha wave thought, where it's impressionable. It's like the meditative thought. Whatever we're thinking about as we're falling asleep, it's the one that sinks the deepest. And then throughout the night, there's no more conscious, so it goes deep and deep and deeper and deeper and deeper. And it marinates and simmers. And the Rabbi Yoel Khan once said in the Farbrengen that in 1950, the Rebbe instructed him to help an American Jew come closer. He wasn't a froom, so the Rebbe gave him Rabbi Yoel a mission to bring him closer, and he started coming closer to. He started coming 770s, this, and one day this young man came to a private audience with the Rebbe, and he opened up to the Rebbe that he has feikot en emunah. He has doubts in his faith all of a sudden. So the Rebbe, after this private audience, summoned Rabbi Yoel and asked Rabbi Yoel to find out what publications was this young man reading before he was going to sleep. And so upon inquiry, the man, we told him some scientific journals, something. And the Rabbi Yoel says, the Rebbe later on told the Rabbi Yoel, I knew this bacher wasn't shayach for these kind of sfeikis. I knew that this young man those kind of doubts and faith didn't pertain to him. It was an add-on feature by what he was reading before he was going to sleep. Because whatever you're thinking about before you sleep, whatever you're into before you sleep, that's the longest thought you're going to have throughout the day. And as we said before, your modeh ani in the morning is rooted in the last thought you have in the nighttime.
Which of the phrases from modeh ani?
The entire modeh
The
ani.
whole thing.
In other words, the way you wake up in the morning, thanking God for waking you up and giving your soul and giving your mission, and that is rooted in your last thoughts throughout the night. So to scorn our bodies doesn't mean that Chaz v'Shalom to hate the body. As we learned last week, that the body emanates from a higher source than the soul does. And not only that, the reason why we have the body is to serve Hashem. As the Zohar says, Histakal b'oraisa u'bara alma, that Hashem peered into the Torah and created the world. So what does it mean that Hashem peered into the Torah? And what does that mean? Hashem peered into the Torah and created the world. There are many explanations to this, but one of the common explanation is that the Torah is Hashem's blueprint for creation. However, it goes much deeper than that. In the Torah, it says, "Ukshartam la'ot al yedechem." You should bind them up upon your hands, referring to the mitzvah of tefillin. V'hayu latotafot bein einechem. They should be as a sign between your eyes.
I have a question. What you said.
But then the Torah. Then the Torah goes on to say, what the Chassidus comes to explain, what does that mean? So on one end, we would think, on the surface level, well, the Torah tells us, now that we have hands, we have to utilize them in order to serve Hashem. Thus, from below to above. I am here, I have a hand, and I have to utilize my hand to serve Hashem. On an essentially truer level, Chassidus explains that when the Torah says, "Ukshatam laot al yedechem," you should bind them upon your hand, there should be a sign between your eyes, then the Torah says we have to tie tefillin onto our arms. So because the Torah says we need to tie tefillin onto our arms, Hashem created us with arms in order to be able to fulfill this mitzvah. Mitzvah means to connect to Hashem. So in order to connect ourselves to Hashem, Hashem created us with an arm. And then He created the animal that we could shed its hide and create parchment. And then He created the different types of inks and the sources of these inks. And the quilt. And the technology to use this. In other words, the blueprint gives life gives life to the world. But the world in itself is there to serve Hashem, not an end unto itself. It's a means to serve Hashem, a very holy means, an essentially imperative mean. But it's a mean, not the end. The end is a service. So someone who regards their body as their primary importance can never serve Hashem. And certainly not love anyone else, not align with themselves with anyone else. Because the body, by definition, is limited, grossly limited, like a passing cloud, like a shadow that's moving, a fleeting shadow. The soul is infinite. Someone who makes their primary focus the physical, the corporal, will always look at everything as very finite, very limited, beginning with themselves. If I have a need for air, if I have a need for comfort, if I have a need for money, and you're around, you are breathing my air. You are potentially taking away from my comfort. So long as you're similar to me means that you won't necessarily be taking anything away from me. Like we spoke about last week with sushi. You like sushi, I like sushi. Good, we could sit and eat sushi together. You won't disrupt my like of sushi, and I won't disrupt your like of sushi. Great, over there we're similar. Great, we'll have a great time. But if you have a different thought, because your body is different, you have an allergy to fish, or you don't like sushi, then we're going to have issues. Because your need for experiencing life, by definition, is a contrast to mine, and not in a good way. And so I can't jive with you. I can't connect with you. As a matter of fact, your presence makes me feel uneasy. So someone who is physically oriented and corporally oriented can never truly align with themselves with anything other than their corporality, which is grossly limited, to put it mildly. That's why the Alter Rebbe begins chapter 32, the heart of Tanya, with this instruction. Someone who regards their corporality as the mainstay, the focus, can never love another person. Or someone who regards their soul as their primary focus, their primary truth, their primary life, and their body secondary, well, as Alter Rebbe says, and we learned last week, the souls are all from Hashem. And it's Hashem who decides which soul goes into which body, into which setting, and so on and so forth. And if so, my main focus is the truth, then I can recognize the truth in everyone, in every place, in all times. But if I regard my physical body, my physical limitation as a truth, then truth is only as true as I see it, as I'm comfortable with it, and anything else scares me. And if it scares me, I'm going to fight, or I'm going to shut down, fight or flight, which comes from the animal soul, as a means to protect and survive. But incidentally, in order to love someone else, you have to let go of your fears for safety. The animal soul fears. Obviously, you have to have your frame and your bounds, and you can't be trampled over. In other words, your dignity. But that's not coming from the ego. That's because the Torah says that we have to be dignified towards each other. We must respect and love each other. Make sense? Make sense?
Question.
Yeah.
You said God peered into the Torah and created the world. I thought he created the world and then the Torah was written. The Torah was written on...
The Torah preceded the creation of the world by 2,000 years. And we're not talking about time-wise, because time was created in creation. Space and time was created in creation, in the process of creation. We're talking about degrees. Torah explains that time are degrees of spiritual manifestation.
Want to make an observation. You said that the longest thought is the last thought of the previous day. I heard the advice from multiple people that if you want to solve a complex problem, like a scientific problem, think about it right before you go to sleep, right? I didn't realize it has like Jewish roots. Interesting. Right? You heard that probably like multiple times.
Of course.
Good. And I used it.
One of the reasons why we went to sleep, we'll speak about before Shavuot, why we stay awake on Shavuot by night is in order to correct that the night before we received the Torah, we all in mass went to sleep. And that's because we erroneously thought that in order to receive the Torah, we have to remove ourselves from this world. Because as brought down in Halakha, I mean, the Rebbe brings this in the same talk. It's brought down in in Torah, that when someone has a complicated issue, halachic question, they should plow through it as much as humanly possible throughout the day, and when they go to sleep, Hashem will reveal from above already. But one of the important takeaways from today is that each and every one of us is a divine spark, a divine expression of God. And just because it doesn't jive with my physical self doesn't mean it's not true. Everyone has a truth. Because everyone and everything is created by God. And in God's world, you can learn and connect to God in every single instance. No matter how the externality reveals itself. If God forbid one's entire disposition is focused on their externality, then my externality is different than yours, and there's no way we could ever really jive. At best, we could be somewhat compatible until we're not. But as we learned last week, and we're going to continue next week, the souls all emanate from the same source. And it's all compatible because it's all one. And that's true in every single scenario, in every single situation. Rabbi Osher Kravitsky, as the Rebbe brings in the book Hayom Yom, once taught that we could learn 7 things, 7 characteristics of how to serve Hashem wholeheartedly from none other than a thief. Because everything and everyone in this world bears the truth of God within themselves. The way it manifests might be one way or another, but the inner sanctum is all the same. So, for example, a thief, a successful thief that is very quiet about their business. They don't go boasting. They're not looking for fanfare. You want to serve God, don't try boasting about what you've done and what you're doing. Don't look for fanfare. A thief is very diligent in their practice. They don't give up. You know what? I'll post this Hayom Yom in our chat. Rabbi Osher also said from a baby you can learn. From a toddler. A toddler is never bored. Always full of energy. He's always curious. They're always moving and excited and looking. They fall, they get back up. From everyone and everything, there's what to learn. The question is, are we looking from the inside out or the outside in? And Tanya teaches us, and especially from chapter 32, the heart of Tanya, the essence of Tanya, teaches us how to look at everything from the internal perspective. Not just at ourselves, at everyone. So the next time, God forbid, you feel that you have a conflict with someone, ask yourself, where is this conflict really emanating from? And if it's coming from my animal soul, my need to control and be comfortable, is it a real conflict? If it's a real conflict, do I really need to impress this? Because if my true self is my godly soul, it's a piece of God, well, you know what? The true self of this person is also their godly soul. So speak to their godly soul. As we spoke about last week, and we're going to be saying this a lot, whoever you're speaking to, that's what you're going to get. If you're speaking to one's upper self, upper frequency to their godly soul, you're going to be able to elicit their godly self. But if you're going to speak to their lower self, their lower frequency, their animal soul, then you're going to be listening to the animal soul, their lower self. Words have power. Thoughts have power. Actions have power. So just try to stream those thoughts, those words, those actions towards connecting and eliciting from everyone's in every situation true form, true self. Don't be carried away and don't be despondent from the externalities. Because if you're seeing an externality, that's only an externality. That's not the real person. In as much as, does this suit me? I'm not asking, does it suit me? Is this suit me? No, it's not me. It's what I'm wearing. Is this beard me? No, this beard is what my face is growing. Or it's growing, at least externally from my face. Is this nose me? Is this arms me? Is this head me? Nope. These are all mine. They belong to me. They're not the real me. The real me is my neshama. Tell you in there was a neurologist, Penfield Weinfeld. He was the first one, I believe, who experimented with electric shock therapy in order to try to treat epileptic seizures. Now, I saw the experiment that I'm about to speak to you, and literally looked like a scene from a sci-fi movie. So what he did was, he cut open the scalp and the skull of a conscious patient.
I saw it.
Now, here's what it is. The scalp, he applied anesthesia and cut the scalp and the skull open, exposing the upper part of the brain, the brains. And so the patient was wide awake while the Dr. Weinfeld applied electric surges into the various parts of the brain. So he applied electric surge with a probe to the part of the brain which is responsible for the gross motor skills, the arms, and when he passed electricity to that part of the brain, the hands started flailing and so on and so forth. Then to the part of the brain which is responsible for the fine motor skills, the fingers, the digits. Then the part which is responsible for the larynx and the patient. Oh! Then the part of the brain which is responsible for memory storage, and the patient reported vividly seeing and recalling memories all from their childhood. Afterwards, and this is the amazing part of it, the doctor asked the patient, why do you flail your hands, your fingers, etc., etc. And he kept on saying, I didn't. He says, what do you mean? It was your hands moving. If your fingers moving, it was your life. He says, no. Yes, it was my hands moving and my fingers moving and so on and so forth. But none of it was me actively doing it. You passed currency through my brain, which stimulated my hands to do this, but it wasn't me. And here's the most amazing part. This is when science admitted the truth. Dr. Weinfeld, and I saw this. He wasn't a Hasidic Jew, he wasn't a Hasidus or Kabbalah. After this, he says, we just discovered the soul. Because until that moment, science erroneously believed that we are the sum total of our mind. But after that experiment, where the brain is passing signals to the hands to move, etc., and the person says, and you said it's my brain, my hands, but it wasn't me that wanted to move it. You coerced it. From this, they realize that there's a third party who is a third party. I'm not the brain, I'm not the hands. There's a third party who is witnessing and experiencing this on a very conscious level. And it recognizes the difference between this and itself. We're not the suits, we're not the bodies, we're the souls. We're not a body with a soul, we're the soul with a body. While the soul represents our true identity, the real us, the body represents our missions. And so your true identity is just as true as someone else's true identity. It's all from God. Every moment, every up and every day, it's all God. Memela, each one of us has it. And to view, if one views himself from the external, then they're only going to view the external of the other person. And if one's external matches and melds with the other, so long as it does, we're great friends, we're buddies. But if it doesn't, we're going to have issues. And that's why the Alter Rebbe says, and that's not love, that's not alignment. Alignment, true alignment comes when you view yourself and therefore everyone else around you organically. So here's a homework for the week. View yourself and view every person as this is a body that Hashem sent to this world and infused this body with a piece of himself in order to bring Mashiach. And just like the drum plays very different than the melodic violin and the flute, but it's all part of the same symphony. So instead of discounting, look at what you can learn from this person. We'll continue this next week.
Thank you.